it's promising, really. It's a good time to be operating in Africa. We see a lot of funds coming to Africa because it's look at the population. Who best to invest in at this stage? If not people who are vibrant, if not a continent that is bursting with opportunities. Speaking again yesterday, and I said, Africa is a unique continent. Why? It has several opportunities because there are big problems. Big problems. And some of those problems can be solved very easily with technology.
Nurture strength of spirit to shield you in sudden misfortune, but do not distress yourself with dark imaginings. Many fears are born of fatigue and loneliness. Beyond wholesome discipline, be gentle with yourself. You are a child of the universe, no less than the trees and the stars. You have the right to be here. And whether or not it is clear to you, no doubt the universe is unfolding as it should. Therefore, be at peace with God, whatever you conceive him to be. And whatever your labors and aspirations, in the noisy confusion of life, keep peace in your soul. With all its sham, drudgery, and broken dreams, it is still a beautiful world. Be cheerful, strive to be happy. Desiderata, Max Ehrman. Linda, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Yassin. It's good to be here.
Great. We've had an episode together, I think it was 2 years ago.
Yes, I think about that.
Yeah, time flies. It
does.
Crazy.
It does fly. I mean, I'm happy to be having this face-to-face.
So we've had an episode together for the Tomorrow Africa podcast. We had a discussion on blockchain and its potential for the African continents. And when we had the episode together, I could feel the energy and the passion and the drive that you had.
Yeah.
And it was so strong that I had the feeling that I already met you. So when we met today, for me, it felt like I already met you in person.
The feeling is mutual.
But it's great to see you here in person and to be able to record this episode with you.
Thank you so much.
I'm curious to know, how do you like Marrakesh, Morocco? How do you like the vibe, the culture, the people, and so on?
I think Marrakesh is an interesting place. One thing that sticks out to me is a vibrant nightlife. I mean, I can't seem to get enough of it since I came. I would take a stroll down the streets just to, take it in. Yeah. And I see that there is a rich cultural heritage as well. There's a sense of community. I was wondering why the houses were all painted the same color. Just something you see out of an Arabian movie, But I see, that rich sense of community, and I think it's a great place. I'll definitely come back.
Great. And do you see some similarities with the Nigerian culture?
Yeah, I think the hustle and bustle of the nightlife is very synonymous to Lagos State. Wow. I mean, and I live in Lagos, so it was, should I say home away from home? Or maybe we'll make it a home away from home during the next visit. A lot of similarities. I see that the people are also boisterous. You have those kind of people. In Lagos, the vibe check is also in place. And that is also synonymous with Lagos. It makes sense to also mention the traffic.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
So yeah, a lot of dots that can be connected. But yeah, overall, it's not a bad experience.
Nice. Do you think that there is such a thing as an African culture? Some people would argue that it isn't the case because, Africa is a wide continent with different civilizations, with different languages, civilizations that also have different histories. But I personally feel that there is such a thing as an African culture, something that is common. I'm not sure what it is exactly. Maybe warmth of people.
Mm-hmm. So I think, of course, there's an African culture. You cannot discount that. Without being segregatist, right? It separates us from the Western culture. There's a Western culture, which is the Western culture, and then there's the African culture, right? And we are deeply rooted in our culture. It shows up every time. The culture is huge, right? You have the Nigerian culture. Within the Nigerian culture, you have cultures within Nigeria. And then when you step out of Nigeria, you see that, pockets of African countries have unique, cultural heritage. So you would not discount the African culture. It's there. It's there, for real.
Okay. So last time we spoke, we talked a lot about blockchain and its potential for the African continents. We talk about different use cases of blockchain in different industries, supply chain, the health industry. We also talked about how it's a layer of trust. I'm curious to know, 2 years later, what you're feeling about the evolution of the blockchain ecosystem, and specifically in the African continent.
So, I mean, that's what it is. The technology is still mutating, right? It's going to evolve beyond what we've seen today. As at 2 years back, we thought we have it, or we've seen it, right? And then from Nigeria that I currently operate in, you find that there are a whole lot of dynamic use cases, especially around supply chain transparency, right? You see that there's a lot of adaptation or adoption of blockchain at the enterprise level. So it goes beyond crypto, which, when you talk about blockchain, everybody thinks it's crypto. But you see that even at institutional levels, we have an adoption of blockchain across different use cases. So there's health, there is human resource management, there is supply chain transparency, name it, right? There's a use case for blockchain. And I think it's still evolving. We've not seen the end of it. Nigeria decided last year, during the voting, there was a voting system, or there was a voting that happened. We elected our president. And one conversation that came on the back of that is the fact that we think that the voting systems could be better if it's built on the blockchain, right? That's one effective use case that we're looking to see, Africans and Nigerians leverage. We want blockchain fosters trust. It also opens up transparency. And if we're going to elect somebody, you see all the chaos that comes with elections and all of that, we can put it to rest if we build that voting system, on the blockchain. So, yeah, there are use cases right now. There are use cases every day, but it's still mutating and it's going to evolve eventually.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, blockchain is also an infrastructure. It's not the endpoint, but it's used for different use cases. And my feeling also is that compared to 2 years ago when we talked, there is less hype about the technology, but that also means that there is less fluff. And now also feels like real things are happening, that the technology is getting maturity, and that serious projects are also able to evolve, and there is less interest towards other projects that are only here to take advantage of the hype that is happening.
I agree. We can't argue that enough, right? 2 years back when we were speaking, there were still a lot of questions around how to adopt blockchain. What are the possible use cases? Is it just a bubble that will burst? And it's a technology that is still going to reach maturation. It's not matured yet. I speak from the Nigerian perspective, but we're getting there. We're getting there. I think the hype around blockchain died down a bit because we saw the emergence of artificial intelligence, right? So there's a lot of talk around AI and what AI can do, what AI cannot do. Is AI going to take over humanity? Is it going to take over our jobs? So yeah. AI is coming up. Robotics is another. Machine learning is another. Deep tech is here to stay, like it or not. I was speaking to that. I said that Pan-Africa adoption of technologies or deep tech, right, is no longer a matter of if, right? Mass adoption will happen. It becomes a matter of when, right? When we're going to reach mass adoption. We have a lot of use cases. We can't flog that enough, right? But then again, adoption is here, like it or not.
Talking about AI, what's your personal feeling about the evolution of artificial intelligence? AI was in the cooking for several years, but people did not comprehend or did not have a feeling of its power until they were able to use tools like ChatGPT. And then there was a seemingly overnight burst of the technology with projects being launched here and there for obvious reasons. And as you've said, now there is hype is happening around AI with different opinions. Some people would say that it's the solution to everything. Others see it as a problem. What's your personal feeling on AI and how it would evolve?
So I think I stand in the middle of, being the solution to everything. And maybe there might be some kind of problem if we don't instill some level of control. If we have global giants like Elon Musk talking about AI, and its potential to, I mean, let's not even dwell on that, but then I feel like at the moment, AI is doing what AI should do, right? Depending on the actor using AI. Do you understand what I mean? I know that there's been an emergence of deep fakes and, many scary things. If you go on Netflix and you watch some of the movies on there, you kind of get a sense of perhaps what is to come. Yeah, I mean, but then again, ChatGPT is my best friend, right? Has been my best friend. I mean, I use it for any and everything. So I also think that it depends on, I mean, who is manipulating AI or who is using AI at that point, right? It could be used for good, it could be used for bad. But then I feel like we need some level of control. We need some level of regulation. How that's going to happen, I still cannot wrap my brain around that. Because, I mean, the technology is everywhere. There's AI for everything, right? You have young chaps who are founding startups and then they are using AI to do things that are incredible, right? And you wonder to what extent, right? Where does it end? But then, as of today, I mean, AI is solving some critical issues. Take, for instance, I work in Healthtech. And we built an innovative, beautiful app. We call it Rigor Plus. And I mean, if I'm to describe that in simplistic terms, I would say it's a hospital in your pocket. You really do not need to visit a hospital if you have the Rigor Plus app. And one blocker we had to scale when we launched was people saying, but I don't think I want to trust a doctor that I don't see physically. I don't think I'll trust a doctor that doesn't check my pulse and touch me and all of that. I feel that when I'm in the face of the doctor and the doctor is touching me and poking me, then my diagnosis would be accurate. But with AI, we've been able to solve, that problem because diagnoses are 99.9 accurate all the time, right? Because we've leveraged AI, to predict, symptoms, right? So, I mean, that is one use case of AI, and then there are 1,000 more, right? But then I do not think, just like blockchain, I do not think that we're just at the very beginning, to be very honest. We're just at the very beginning. AI is going to mature a lot more. I was speaking to somebody and I heard that there are a lot of AI projects that are still in beta, that are not even, out there. And these are, incredible, mind-blowing projects. So fingers crossed, the next 5 years, we'll see.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And
Yeah, looking forward to it.
yeah, you said that AI became your best friend.
Yeah.
Also
yes.
same.
You spend, when you have to spend countless hours doing presentations. I remember my first brush with ChatGPT. It was incredible. I didn't believe. Everybody's been raving about it. Only that, trying ChatGPT and all of that. I downloaded the app and said, let me see what happens here. And then I think I prompted it to do something that would have taken me a week to do. It was a presentation, right? For a board meeting. A week to do. And fast, I got... So, you cannot take it and, copy and paste verbatim. You need to actually prompt properly, to get the kind of results or to get the kind of responses you're looking for. But then ChatGPT is my friend, really. And it should be any executive's friend if you know how to properly prompt it.
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually thinking the other day about the life before ChatGPT, and I struggled to think how things were. Like, it's also crazy how we can rapidly take things for granted and adopt them rapidly.
It's almost like thinking about life without smartphones.
Exactly.
So, I was watching a movie. What was this movie on Netflix? Atlas. Have you seen it?
No.
See it.
Okay.
And then, yes, AI had evolved to, it has really evolved. It was a futuristic movie. I think they were on year 2300 or something. And then this lady who had invented a particular AI who had now gone rogue, what were they calling themselves? Technosapiens. I think they call themselves technosapiens. That's technology, and you know how you have Homo sapiens as humans. They wanted to be identified as technosapiens. And when she was speaking to Congress, right? She said she recalls a time when her daughter, was playing around with her smartphone, and her smartphone, as at when she was speaking, was long outdated. I'm talking about 2300, right? So, I mean, just fingers crossed. Interesting things are coming.
Yeah, I do agree. I'm also curious to know how you think it will change the dynamics of our lives and at different levels. So, for instance, in work, but also in our personal lives. Something that you've said that I also find quite interesting is that you've said that things that used to take you a lot of time to do can now be done instantly by ChatGPT, and also things that, for instance, people had to go to university for, that they had to spend a lot of time for to learn and so on. Now anyone literally with
the
a
right
few
prompts,
clicks, with the right prompts, they can do. And I mean, people still do not comprehend how powerful that is, because that would mean that anyone with the right prompt, with the right understanding, can have as much power as hundreds, maybe 1,000 of people before AI emerged, or the use cases of AI that we can have now. So how do you think that will change the dynamic? Let me ask a question differently. Who do you think will be the people that will thrive in the world where AI and...
Okay, how does it change the dynamics? I feel like AI would... So there's been a lot of conversations around AI replacing jobs, and why some people are very vehemently against the fact that AI would not replace jobs. We're seeing it every day, right? I mean, last year or 2 years back, we saw a lot of job cuts. When, the news were coming, this company, global company, tech company, cut down 1,000 people. This other company cut down 10,000 people. I'm wondering, so who's doing all the work? And then it occurred to me that, these guys could actually be leveraging AI to do most of the work. Let's take content writing, for instance. I don't think I need a content writer if I have the right prompts for AI, right? Before now, I used to do a lot of, racking my brain just to come up with an interesting LinkedIn post. Now, I rack my brain still, right? But then I just tweak it a bit, and AI does all the work. So those are some of the kind of changes. There are going to be a lot of job cuts are coming, a whole lot, as we see AI evolve into, doing a lot of things. So I was speaking to my CTO the other day, and he called my attention to it. I was like, Linda, have you seen this thing by Meta? And I'm like, no. He said, have you not been listening to Zuckerberg? I said, no. What's happening? And he said, there's this thing by Meta, this AI by Meta, and he's saying that it will get to a point where you just ask an AI doctor. An AI doctor, that's incredible. What happens to that profession? And then I read in the news when I think I saw somewhere where they mentioned that AI they just recruited an AI CEO. Did you see that news?
Oh.
Incredible, right? So those are some of the shifts. It's going to be transformative. Now, whether it's going to be transformative positively, that is yet to be seen, right? There are still going to be jobs that human beings will need to, but in the if you look at the bigger picture, right, as it gets intelligent and more intelligent. In fact, Elon Musk was saying something that it gets to a point where AI is far, far, far. I think right now we're at the point where AI is really intelligent, far more intelligent than some humans, right? Argue it from now till thy kingdom come is the truth, right? And then they're still testing, they're still building these learning models, it's still learning and gathering all of this knowledge. 3 years from now, I don't think we'll be talking about, maybe it will be I don't know, but things are coming, right? Is it going to be positive? I don't know, I'm not sure, right? Am I optimistic about the future? I am, if you apply yourself correctly. And applying yourself now means a lot of things, right? Staying on top of trends. If you, a time will come when, if you don't know how to effectively use AI tech or AI tools, there might not be jobs for you. So we're shifting to that time when the adaptation to AI it's a no-brainer. We need to start learning different language models around AI. We're already training, I got a prompt one day. Was it ChatGPT or being one of these AI models? And it was like, so Linda, we've just updated to version so and so. Now you can now train your AI apparently to do your work for you. So every day I'm working side by side AI. He understands my language, or I don't know. It understands my language. He understands how I craft my sentences, even down to my voice, right? So a time will come when you really don't need Linda here, right? There is an AI that can do everything Linda's done, that can speak like Linda. Did you see an interview? I can't remember his name, but a popular scientist. And what he was doing was interviewing his AI model.
Oh,
Him. So you have him, and then you have the AI in his form.
his clone. Yeah.
In his form. And they were having a conversation. Scary stuff.
Wow.
That's where we're going. Scary stuff.
I really hope that in 2 years I won't be interviewing your clone.
Scary stuff. I mean, but then don't forget that if there is enough social proof, it now becomes norm, right? Remember when, I'm very Nigerian, and I understand when we had the emergence of GSM. And you have the older generation who would not touch it for any reason until there was enough social proof to have everybody now have smartphones, down to children who are born just yesterday. They can actually operate. My daughter can operate my phone, talk to Siri, and she's barely 4, and she engages Siri. So we have that generation. I think they're called Generation Alpha, who would use AI. We have a lot of Gen Zs who are now, they are laid back anyways. So, the adoption of AI is a no-brainer for them. And then you have the alphas who are coming behind them. I'm a millennial. I find AI fascinating. But then I am on top of trends, and I understand enough to realize that we need regulations real fast. If Elon Musk is talking about regulations, right? I think we need some level of control.
The main difference with those generations is that they won't be able to make the difference because they will be born in a world where they can have the same conversation with a human being as with an AI that they can view, that they can talk to.
It becomes normal.
Exactly. In our case, we knew the world before AI, so we make the difference. We can see the line that separates the past and the present, and we can also see how things are evolving.
Oh, yeah.
But for generations that opened their eyes and started engaging from day one with those technology, they see it, as you said, as a norm.
In 2050, trust me, it's not going to be the same. It's not going to be the same world. It's not going to be the same world. So, let's be very realistic.
Yeah, we see it as scary, but maybe they won't say it as scary. They would just
because it's normal, right? Like I said, I was born in an era where we had to use the analog phone, and you need to be really, really born into some level of privilege to have that in your house. If you need to speak to anybody, you go to a telephone booth and do that. And then we're introduced to the handheld mobile devices. Now, we have kids who are born from day one, they are already engaging and interacting with your phone. So it becomes some of, I tell my son today that, I tell them there was a time when all those phones you guys are asking for, you're already looking at what does it talk? You're already looking at the model, you're already looking at this, you're looking at the speed, I don't know these things. You know why? Because I was not born into that. I was not born into it. They were born into it, so they understand it far beyond what we know. And then there are this generation coming behind them, which they call them Generation Alpha, right? Why they've named them Generation Alpha, I don't know, but I think it's a very suitable name for what they're born into now. They understand digitization. They understand. They don't know what it means not to have a smartphone. Like, you take a phone from my daughter, she's literally going to throw tantrums, right? She doesn't know any way. They don't know any way to live, any other way else to live, right? Beyond what they've seen. And it's a good thing for them. We feel it's scary because, like you said, we weren't born into it, or we weren't born to it. But adoption of all kinds of tech. I was watching again because I feel like I really feel like they put it in your faces long enough for you to understand what is coming. And then there's this particular movie still on Netflix where AI wives are a thing. You pick what you want, like you pick down to specifications, right? And that's what's coming. That's what's coming. It's normal. So what happens to marriages? What happens to relationships, right? I mean, we'll see. Like I said, fingers crossed.
But in that case, what value do you think human beings can still bring to the table? If you can clone your intelligence, if you can clone your voice, you can clone your thoughts and so on.
You can clone your consciousness.
If you can clone your consciousness, without even talking about AGI, even talking about how AI currently is and what we can see today. In that case, what can human beings bring as a value? I mean, our whole lives evolve around the purpose that we're seeking. That's also why we go to university, so we can learn skills, we can learn a job and so on. But in a world where AI can do mostly anything, I'm actually thinking about what human beings can still do. And I know that it's not an easy question, but
yeah, I mean, the only thing that comes to my head is now let me answer, with some level of vulnerability. Would need to teach, the generation that's coming, after us, some level of life skills, right? Very important. We mentioned culture. We talked about, Africa and the rich cultural heritage, but if we don't continue to pass it down, right, it's going to fizzle away really fast, right? This generation is hip, fast, speed. They want everything really convenient. Again, I'm very rooted in family, so I draw a lot of examples from, that family setting. My kids would prefer to use a dishwasher than to wash manually. Is that what it's called? I would never. I was raised to do the dishes, clean the dishes, keep the dishes. These guys, no. So, and I would drum it. I would continue to talk about it. See, my brother, you need to go and wash this thing. Learn how to wash this thing, right? You need to learn how to drive. You need to learn how to farm. In fact, farming is something that we should start to pass down, especially with all this GMO this, GMO that. It's going to get to a point where our food is heavily adulterated, right? I was reading somewhere in the paper, a Nigerian daily, and it said that that is Senate, but there's a bill that has been passed, and there's this introduction of GMO corn seed, or maize seed. And I asked myself, where are we going with this? Now, if you go further to read about this particular seed, it doesn't have a replant value, right? So what happens when you're giving it to farmers now in Africa very free of charge, right? Free of cost. And they're happily taking this. They're putting it in our soil. It is contaminating the soil, whether you like them, because I did a bit of Healthtech. And then after harvest, what I know traditionally is after harvest, there are some that are dried out and then it's used for the next planting season. But it will not happen with a GMO seed. After harvest, what happens? You need to go back and get more GMO seeds because there's no replant value. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. So we need to start to transfer, this rich cultural heritage we're going to talk about. We need to transfer life skills because at the end of the day, that's what's going to hold up, really. Mm-hmm.
Maybe that also would lead to a golden age of entrepreneurship because entrepreneurs wouldn't need as much resources, for instance, to produce value. They can just use different types of AIs that were trained to do different types of things, where before they needed to raise funds or they needed to have a lot of resources to be able to do things. Mm-hmm. Now it's just crazy to think about what a single person can do in his or her room, just using those tools, right?
Yeah. You can, from the comfort of your room, prompt and say, give me business ideas around this. Yeah. And then you have 10, 100 ideas that are really viable. So, we're going to see a burst of that, but can everybody be entrepreneurs? That becomes the question. Are we going to see a saturation at some point? What happens, really?
I personally think that people will have more reasons to become entrepreneurs rather than following the classic route that's, for instance, we followed and our parents followed and so on, because that's what actually makes sense. You can start choosing those AIs and models and so on and use them as tools rather than seeing them as threats and things that can, for instance, replace you. I've read
there's a comeback, right? Can everybody and should everybody be entrepreneurs? That's the question, really. So with the upsides that comes with, some of those things, we should critically consider some of the downsides. Can everybody actually be entrepreneurs, and where does saturation leave us? But then again, I mean, we'll see.
Yeah. I'm also curious to know how you think that would change the African continent. The reason I'm asking you the question is that when we had the episode 2 years ago, we spoke a lot about the potential of blockchain in the African continents. You've been involved in different ecosystems. You've said that you're now working in the Healthtech. You've been working before in the agribusiness as well. You also have experience with blockchain and education and so on. And from what I'm able to see, you also have an interest or a vision of at an African scale. So you're interested about Africa as a whole rather than being focused on a single country. So I'm curious to know how you think things will evolve in the following years with emerging technologies like AI, but also blockchain, robotics, and so on, in a continent where there is a lot of young people, a lot of potential, also a lot of problems.
So, I mean, we're already seeing some level of transformation. There's going to be a transfer. The next coming 5 years is going to see, a transformative shift. We have GITEX, and I saw the level of attendance, right? And then there are a lot of startup events here, tech events here and there. You mentioned very correctly that Africa is a young continent. In fact, the bulk of I think we're about 1.4 billion as at, the last start in 2024. And the bulk of that number would be people within the age ranges of 18 and 25. And these are people who are already adopting technology. So you see the shift is here, it's coming, right? But like we've, said over and over here, there's going to be a lot of use cases, technology use cases. There's going to be a lot of advancement in Africa. We're going to see systems work because we've adopted, technology at some level. It's promising, really. It's a good time to be operating in Africa. We see a lot of funds coming to Africa because it's look at the population. Who best to invest in at this stage? If not people who are vibrant, if not a continent that is bursting with opportunities. Speaking again yesterday, and I said, Africa is a unique continent. Why? It has several opportunities because there are big problems. Big problems. And some of those problems can be solved very easily with technology. But then adoption now becomes the issue. How do we drive critical adoption? If we continue to say that smartphone uptake is up 60%, if we need to say that the internet penetration is up 50%, right? We now need to build, around this infrastructure so that we can see a lot of development across sectors. So it goes beyond health, it goes beyond education, it goes beyond, even at the government level, right? We need to see some level of digitization, we need to see some level of technological adoption, right? If we have governments across Africa that are adopting tech, on a scale of 50%, then I see Africa working the way we want Africa to work.
Interesting. Talk to me about the essence of innovation that is happening in the health ecosystem. I'm actually curious to know what are the main innovations that are happening in services and products related to health.
Yeah, telemedicine is one. I spoke about this app that you really don't need to leave the comfort of your house, right, to get quality care, right? So telemedicine is one. We have emergency medical record, electronic medical records. Let me paint a picture. I was born some years back in a hospital somewhere, and then growing up, I have, fallen sick at different times, and I've used this hospital, that hospital, the other hospital, and you have these records littered everywhere, right? If I need to see a doctor today, maybe if I had some kind of, illness that I've been treating from birth till now, that history is nowhere to be found because it's in that hospital, this hospital, the other hospital, and all of that. So technology is also solving, that problems. That problem. We have wearables, right, that would predict diagnosis as well, and this also is in health. There are digital health systems that you really don't need to visit a physical pharmacy to get over the counter medications. You really don't need to visit a physical pharmacy to get prescription medication. So these are some of the use cases that you can walk into a pharmacy and speak to a doctor virtually. Do you understand? Without having to go to the hospital. So there are a lot of interesting use cases, right? Within the healthcare, sector. We are yet to see the end of it. But with telemedicine and the evolution of, this new tech, I think it's a beautiful time to be operating in tech.
Yes.
Health tech as well.
Speaking to a doctor at some point, also speaking to an AI, that will certainly happen where also people will start engaging with AIs that are trained.
Oh, yeah.
And speaking also about the wearables that we would wear, they would, for instance, use the data that they're gathering to also share insights on our health and so on.
Yeah.
And I personally also think that in the age of AI, that's also where we're most aware of the importance of our health, because that's also what makes us competitive, what can also make us, for instance, go on the long run and so on. So I think that people will start also prioritizing their health.
Agreed. Yeah. Agreed, really. I spoke about the Rig Up Plus app. What you've just said made me remember that you get all these prompts. In the morning, you get a prompt on what you need to do, right? Based on, some of the data that is being, you don't know it's gathering data, but it is gathering data, right? In the afternoon, you get on the prompts. In the evening, it just helps you live better. So yeah, these are some of the use cases that would continue to enhance, healthcare outcomes.
Interesting. In a world that is constantly changing with a lot of innovations that are appearing and things that are growing exponentially, how do you personally keep yourself educated and also keep yourself on top?
Okay, so I think it's really simple, to answer this question. One is the fact that I am a curious cat. Let's put it that way. I read a lot of books. I know that it is not now sexy to read books. Again, that is, as it has been, laid out over and over by my kids, not just my kids, the young ones around me. Also, why are you reading when you can listen to it? But I grew up reading a lot of books. I stay curious. I read a lot of books. I consume a lot of materials on YouTube. There are a lot of courses. If you go on the internet and you type deep tech or new age or whatever, what courses should I be taking in 2024? You see a whole lot of them, and accounting is not one of them. There's AI for accounting right now, so you might want to do that. I feel like, and if I'm going to give, advice, people listening, it would be, these things are free, right? You can get resources on YouTube for free. You can get resources on Coursera for free. I feel like we also need to, at the academic level, tweak some of our curriculum and our model, the models that have been learned in school. Trust me, they are so outdated, and they don't prepare, these guys for the jobs of the future. What are the jobs of the future? We keep talking about AI. We've been on AI for quite some time. 2 years back, it was blockchain. Just learn things that are relevant. I stay relevant. I stay learning just because I want to always remain, relevant.
And how about personal habits that allow you to keep the focus in a noisy world? When you talked about books, that's also the case in my side for me. But for me, reading books also has it's also meditative experience beyond being able to absorb the information. Just being able to sit in a noisy, not noisy, but still place and be able to think and so on. it's also where, for instance, ideas can emerge.
Exactly.
Yeah. So are there some other habits that you engage in that also allow you to keep
Habits. Okay. Like I said, I'm very family grounded, family oriented. When I'm not reading, when I'm not doing work, it's work most of the time. But when I'm not doing work, it's family. What are some of the habits? Habits. I don't know. I'm just a curious cat, and I think that's what has really. I would I say I'm competitive in nature. So you can never outlearn me. You can never outwork me, and that's a habit. Whether it's a good habit, I'm not sure. But you can never outwork me. You can never outcompete me. Don't worry about it. So, I think just trying to stay ahead of the pack, yeah, keeps driving me to do more and more and more and more.
Interesting. Are there any books or resources that you would advise people to read to keep themselves educated?
So, because I understand that Africans are lazy readers, right? And it's the truth, right? My dad was saying something. I think he was speaking, or I'm not sure how that information came about. He said, if you want to hide an information, or if you want to hide something from an African, put it in the book. Put it in the book. They might never open that book. But if I'm to give an advice, I would say beyond the book, it doesn't. I mean, what works for me don't necessarily have to work for you, right? To yourself, be true. Understand the things that you want to do. The interesting thing is that we live in an era and an age where there's social media and you can do about anything. You can be anything you want to be. You can monetize your talent any way you want to, right? So to yourself, be true, understand yourself, understand what you gravitate towards, and then begin to take baby steps to learning a thing or two and just ensuring that you perfect that side of you. It doesn't really need to be, you don't need to be a blockchain expert, you don't need to be developer and engineer, you don't really need to be that to be successful. I know influencers that are earning 100 times what I earned today from the comfort of just doing some stupid stuff. But then again, it is what it is. That's we're in the information era, right? There's an information overload, and there's an audience for every kind of how do I put it now? Every kind of niche. So gravitate towards what you would want to do. I know people who have left jobs simply because it was not their thing, right? And they've gone on to be global superstars, right? Thames used to be, she used to have a 9 to 5. Now she's a global superstar. She's a Grammy Award winner. And then we have, the like. So gravitate towards what works for you and what makes you shine through.
Yeah, what also makes you an individual, different from other people.
Yeah. You must own your individuality. It's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, rather than following scripts. That's what also we were taught to do, following what...
Exactly. I was going to say, do you know that is what we were taught to do?
Exactly.
Right? I'm sure that if I was born in this time and age, maybe it would be a different Linda, right? Because I find as I get older, I get to understand myself a bit more. Oh, this is not so bad. I can actually do beautifully well here. But I've been taught to read. So it's a habit, right? So even when I do not want to read, I find myself reading. I've been taught to burn the candle at both ends. There's this thing they say in school that you must have to burn the candle at both. So right now I'm working. My eyes is popping. I'm still working. But then it's good to find balance, right? But that is what was passed down, right? I saw my dad do it. I saw my mom do it. So who am I not to do it, right? But the interesting thing is these kids now, they don't care. I mean, there's social media. So they have a lot of mentors. Also beyond you, my mentors used to be my mom, my dad, my uncles, my aunts. Right now, there are people who have been advising your kids on the internet, right? They have online coaches. It's a saturation of information. So yeah, a beautiful time to be alive.
Yeah, it reminds me of a personal concept that I have in mind, what I call personal mentors. So those are people that I've personally never met.
Yeah.
But that maybe contributed to my education, maybe more than my parents.
Yeah.
Because I spent so much time engaging with their contents, listening to their audiobooks and so on. Already. I feel like I know them, and I can almost feel or have an idea of the opinion that they would have in
Yeah.
certain situations. Because
So it could be a good thing and a bad thing as well. I mean, it
Yeah.
could be a good thing. Anyway. So I've come across contents that are very like I go through my kids' phone. I'm like, oh, you're following this person, that person, the other person, and then there are some agendas that are being pushed, and they're heavy on social media. So it's. I mean, we would need to find some level kind of balance, right? As much as we know that we are not now the go-to mentors, right, for our kids, but we want to also let them know that, hey, there are values and there are morals, right? So you might follow this person, but hey, are you listening to what she's saying? Are you actually listening to what he's saying, right? So this you might want to take with a pinch of salt. That I think you want to consume verbatim. It still needs some level of guidance, no matter what, no matter.
And coming back to the idea of having clones, AI clones,
Yeah.
I think the next iteration of this would be having GPTs that are based on the content that was produced by specific people,
Yeah.
based on their books,
Yeah.
the podcasts they attended, their
We have
ideas,
that
and so
already.
on.
Yeah,
We have that,
we have that already.
but it will be more advanced in the future
Oh, yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
So people, in my case, for example, the way I did it was in a passive way. So I would read the book and then think about how a certain person would think about
Yeah.
a personal situation. But maybe in the future, or I would use a GPT and ask directly this person, although maybe this person would have passed away or wouldn't be here to engage with me directly, but its AI clone would do it.
So there's also this thing, right, where I don't know, they were trying to get humans to live forever. So it's how you download your consciousness, and then when this body leaves, you now, in fact, it's there already. You now upload. I was reading, was it on Instagram or was it on CNN? One of, like I said, there's an information overload, and they were saying that head transplants are now a thing, and there are people. There's an AI company that now would successfully transfer the head to another body, right? So you can now download your consciousness, and then when the head is transferred to the body, you upload it, and it still might not be the same, the same, how do I put it, casing, might not be the same Linda, but it's the same consciousness. She recognizes, she likes what she likes, she still has her habits. It's still the same person, but in a different body.
That's scary.
Scary. And I mean, this was as recent as last week.
Oh.
It was as recent as last week. Yeah.
Yeah, that raises all types of ethical questions. And
I mean, it comes back to control. But then, we'll see.
We'll see. Linda, if you come back to your personal interest and the things that you're engaged in, as we've said, you've been involved at different levels. But I'm also curious to know what is the ethos from which the energy spurs and the passion comes. Is it about emerging technology? Is it about the African continent?
I think it's a cross of both. You cannot take out the continent without also looking at the things that propels the continent forward, right? And if we're going to push Africa from point 1 to 10, if we're going to move the needle a bit, we need to start looking at some of the metrics that moves that needle. And technology is one. We cannot, it's one very pivotal, it's critical to accelerating Africa. So you cannot take out one without the other. If you're passionate about Africa, you need to be passionate about what makes Africa work, right? What makes Africa work would be, yes, technology. 2, you want to have leaders that are truly inspiring, leaders that have been there, done that. I'm also interested in different business models. So like you correctly said, I have transitioned from this to this to this to that. But one thing is constant, is the fact that I'm a business person through and through. Somebody was asking me, so are you a doctor? You speak so passionately about healthcare. And I said, no, I'm not. I was like, so where's this passion coming from? I said, okay, so I think what you're really asking me is how I'm able to transition. And this is what it is. Give me any business that you are enabling with technology, and I'm able to draft or come up with a fantastic go-to-market strategy, right? So that keeps me evolving from. It might be what tomorrow. It might be femtech tomorrow. It might be prop tech tomorrow. It might be anything tomorrow. As long as it is technology enabled, I would always find a way to, move the needle from point 1 to 10 and then 10 to 100.
And again, not following a script.
Nah. Never.
Yeah.
Never. So one thing about me is that it's not being about following any kind of script, really. I do what I want to do, when I want to do it, how I want to do it, what spurs me at the moment, right? I see an opportunity that I really want to take, I take it, right? I grab it. If it doesn't, it comes here. It doesn't come, I keep trying, right? Maybe it's the can-do attitude and just this never giving up. My dad was saying, there's something about you, you really never tire, right? I tire, I rest, and I come back, right? But if I believe enough in something, I'm not going to give up on it.
That's impressive.
Thank you.
And that was a pleasure to have you for this episode. I really enjoyed it. So thank you very much for your time.
You.
Again, it was a pleasure also to meet you in person.
Me too.
And let's keep in touch. And I hope that I'll have you for a future episode.
Yeah, sure.
And talk about how AI would have evolved
then. Yeah. Yeah. And if there are controls then. But yeah, no problems. Great.